This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Bruchim Abayim. Welcome everyone. Shalom Aleichem. Great to see everybody. We have three very important Shiurim this morning. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should grant us Siyata D'Shmaya for greater and deeper understanding of Torah HaKadosha. The Baruch Hashem, the Haggadah Shal Pesach is we're going to print. I hope next time to be able to show you a picture of the cover. If anybody wants to participate, you could still be mishtatev. We're a few thoughts on the Parsha. The pasuk says, Perek Chaf Hei pasuk Ches, Va'asu li mikdash. Rashi says, Va'asu, what's li? Lishmi. It has to be built lishma. Question, but it already says, V'yikchu li Chuma. Rashi says, li lishmi. So we already know it has to be lishma. Why does the Torah have to reiterate lishma 2 times? I think the simple explanation, and I'm sure you all thought of this as well, is that both the giving as well as the building have to be lishma. Everybody knows that there are 2 parts of making a binyan. There's a donation and there's a building of it. Sometimes a person might donate for an ulterior motive. They want to appear generous. They want to look like a good guy. But when they build the shul or they build the yeshiva, they do it l'shem shamayim. Vice versa, a person could donate l'shem shamayim, and then the edifice is built shaloi l'shma. And therefore, the Torah is emphasizing both the donation as well as the building have to be l'shma. Okay, this is something I never picked up on before. Perek Chaf Hei pasuk Lamed Aleph. Te'aseh ha-menorah. The menorah should be made. It sounds like it's made on its own. Rashi says, indeed, Moshe had a very difficult time with the menorah. So Hashem says, don't worry, throw it into the fire, and it will just come out on its own. Therefore, it doesn't say, you should make the menorah, but rather it says the menorah will be made. Question, later on in Perek Mem, Perek Chaf Hei pasuk Mem, Rashi says, Ure'ei va'aseh, see and make. This teaches that Moshe had a difficult time in the menorah until God had to show him a menorah of fire. Wait a second, we already know he had a hard time, and Hashem told him just throw it in and it will come by itself. Why is there another pasuk that Moshe had a hard time with the menorah? So interesting, let's focus on this. There are 2 words that indicate Moshe had a hard time with the menorah. One is te'aseh, and one is ure'ei va'aseh. Ure'ei va'aseh. Why did Moshe have a problem 2 times? The Sifsei Chachamim explains that at first Moshe Rabbeinu had a difficulty comprehending what the menorah looked like. So Hashem said, here's a visual aid. He showed him a menorah of fire. But then after Moshe Rabbeinu understood what the menorah looked like, he had a hard time figuring out how he's going to make it. So Hashem said, don't worry, throw it in the fire. So in other words, Moshe had 2 questions. First, he couldn't visualize it, so Hashem showed him a menorah of fire. Then he couldn't make it, so then Hashem said, just throw it in the fire and it will come by itself. So the following question hit me. In Parshas Bahaloischa, Rashi says a 3rd time Moshe had a hard time with the menorah. It says, V'zeh Maaseh ha-menorah. Whenever it says V'zeh, it means to point with a finger. So Rashi says, Hashem showed him with his finger because he had a difficult time with the menorah, so Hashem pointed, okay, this is what it looks like. Why is Moshe still having a hard time with it? So it means there are 3 words in Chamisha Chumshei Torah indicating Moshe has a hard time with the menorah. 1, Teyaseh, in Terumah. Number 2, Ure'ei va'aseh. And number 3, V'zeh Masa HaMenorah. The Gemara says that Moshe Rabbeinu's difficulty with the menorah is there are 49 components of the menorah. The menorah has 22 goblets. The menorah has 11 knobs, and the menorah has 9 flowers. And then the menorah has 7 branches. So Moshe Rabbeinu knew the 49 pathways of Bina, the 49 gates of wisdom, but he didn't know the 50th gate of wisdom. The menorah itself is the Shar Nun. This is what was difficult to Moshe Rabbeinu. Question: why is Moshe Rabbeinu dafka trying to understand the 50th gate of wisdom in Parshas Bahaloischa? Listen carefully. The pasuk V'zeh Masa HaMenorah, that Moshe had a difficult time with the menorah, that's in Bahaloischa. Why is this third question of Moshe Rabbeinu not understanding the menorah itself, which again represents the Shar Nun? There are 49 details of the menorah. The menorah itself is the 50th. The 49 details of the menorah represent the 49 gateways of wisdom. The menorah itself represents the 50th gateway of wisdom. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu dafka in having a difficult time understanding the menorah in Bahaloischa? Another question you could ask is if you look at the Rashis in this week's Parsha, Rashi says there are 9 flowers on the menorah. 8 are mentioned in Terumah. The final flower is not written in Terumah, it's written in Bahaloischa. There it says in Ad Yirecha Ad Pircha Mikshahi. That's the 9th flower. Isn't that interesting that in the Parsha that talks about how to make the menorah, only 8 flowers are mentioned, and later on when it talks about lighting the menorah, a 9th flower is mentioned. But I would humbly suggest, even though it's not clear why 8 flowers are mentioned in this week's Parsha and 1 flower is mentioned in Bahaloischa, but the 9th flower is the 49th detail of the menorah. I would say so long as Hashem only gave to Moshe 48 details of the menorah, Moshe Rabbeinu understood 48 gateways of wisdom. And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have a difficult time understanding the 50th gate because he wasn't even up to it yet, because he didn't even have 49. But in Bahaloischa, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe Rabbeinu the 9th flower, which is the 49th level of wisdom, now for the first time Moshe Rabbeinu is Niskasha in the 50th level of wisdom. Meaning, until Moshe Rabbeinu was elevated to level 49, he didn't have a question about level 50. But now that he got to level 49, he was elevated to level 50. I'm sorry, that he wanted to understand level 50. One more ha'ara. By many of the items in the Mishkan, it says that they match up Isha el Achoisa, a woman and her sister. A woman and her sister. It's an interesting expression to use when a hook goes into a loop, or when a plank goes into another plank, Isha el Achoisa. So Rashi says that's the Derech HaMikrois. When we talk about things that are feminine, we say Isha el Achoisa. When we talk about things that are masculine, we say Isha el Achiv. But perhaps we could explain further. Rav Shamshin Me'ashtapoli reveals that the reason why a person can't marry a woman and her sister is because on the Kisei HaKavod, it says the details of the Kisei HaKavod are Isha el Achoisa. And that's why Yaakov Avinu, whose image is on the Kisei HaKavod, he could marry Isha el Achoisa. So we're learning an interesting and elevated idea that the design on God's throne of glory is a Kisei HaKavod. We know that the Mishkan was Mishkan Ha'edos. The Mishkan was a Mishkan of the Luchais. The Luchais were actually San Perinon. I believe Rabbi Glatstein says they were hewn out from the very Kisei HaKavod. If that's the case, the Mishkan is basically encapsulating the throne of glory. In that case, we understand why the details of the Mishkan are Isha El Achaisa, similar to the Kisei HaKavod. Okay, now we do your favorite part of the week, the imponderables. Let's do that.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.